Daniel sat in the narrow seat of the transport shuttle, watching the stars shift outside the small window. He had been transferred before, but this was different. The shuttle was heading toward Orion Station, the largest hub of peace talks in the known sectors. Thousands of ships from dozens of alien races docked there every week. For a young human officer like Daniel, it was both exciting and intimidating. He adjusted his uniform, smoothing the creases on his sleeve. His reflection in the glass showed a serious face, short dark hair, and steady brown eyes. He looked calm, but inside, his thoughts raced. He wanted to make a good impression. This posting was more important than any assignment he had ever had. Here, words could start wars or bring peace. When the shuttle slowed, Orion Station filled the window. It was massive, a ring-shaped fortress floating against the endless black. Countless lights blinked across its surface, like a small city in space. Ships of every shape and size drifted in and out of the docking bays. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He whispered to himself, "This is it. Time to begin." The shuttle landed, and Daniel stepped into the airlock. The moment the door opened, the sounds of Orion Station rushed in. Voices in dozens of languages echoed, machines hummed, footsteps clattered against the floor. He walked through the wide hall lined with banners of different worlds. Humans moved alongside tall beings covered in scales, short beings with wide eyes, and others with long flowing robes. It was a river of life, all flowing through the heart of the station. At the check-in desk, Daniel showed his orders. The officer scanned them, nodded, and gave him directions to the communication wing. "Report there immediately, Lieutenant," the officer said with a polite but firm voice. Daniel followed the path through the bustling corridors. The air smelled of metal and strange spices from alien food stalls. He saw soldiers in armored suits standing guard, and diplomats walking with small groups of aides. Every corner of the station seemed alive. Daniel felt small in such a place, yet he knew he had a role to play. Finally, he reached the communication wing. It was quieter, with smooth walls and large screens showing incoming messages from different sectors. A senior commander, an older woman with grey hair tied back neatly, greeted him. "Lieutenant Daniel, welcome. You are assigned to the Envoy Reception Unit. Your task is to help manage introductions, confirm records, and assist in translating where needed. Accuracy and patience are critical here. Mistakes can cost more than battles." Daniel saluted. "Understood, Commander." She gave a small approving nod and returned to her work. Daniel took his station at a console. He began checking incoming envoy rosters. It was routine at first. His eyes moved over the names of alien delegates, confirming their arrival times. Some names were impossible to pronounce, but the station software helped with translation. Hours passed smoothly. Then, during the afternoon shift, a new group of envoys arrived from the distant Syrian system. They were known for their long lifespans and crystal-like features. As Daniel prepared their entry, he noticed one envoy glance at him curiously. She was tall, her skin pale with a faint silver glow, and her eyes shone like polished stone. Her movement was graceful, but when her gaze fell on the roster and saw his name, everything changed. She froze. Her silver eyes widened, and the air around her seemed heavy with silence. For a moment, Daniel thought he had made an error in the files. He checked the screen again. His name glowed clearly, Lieutenant Daniel Reeves. The envoy's lips moved slowly. Her voice, usually calm and smooth, now trembled. She whispered words so faint that Daniel almost missed them. But he heard enough. "You are that boy." Daniel blinked, unsure if he understood correctly. "I beg your pardon, envoy. Did you say something?" The envoy stared at him, her voice locked away. Then she shook her head quickly, as if she had spoken too much. She turned her gaze aside, refusing to meet his eyes again. The other envoys moved past her, unaware of the moment. Daniel sat in silence, his heart thumping harder than before. Why would she say that to him? He had never met her before, had he? He tried to push it away, telling himself it was nothing. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she confused him with someone else. But her voice echoed in his mind, "You are that boy." The rest of the shift passed slowly. Daniel kept working, but his thoughts wandered back to the envoy with silver eyes. He wondered if he should ask her later, but doubt held him back. He was new here. The last thing he wanted was to draw attention or create a misunderstanding. Still, the unease refused to leave him. That night, Daniel returned to his assigned quarters. The small room had only a bed, a desk, and a screen on the wall. He sat on the bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought about the envoy again. Why had she looked so shocked when she saw his name? Why whisper those words like they carried weight from the past? Daniel tried to recall his childhood. He grew up on a quiet colony world. His memories were simple: school, training, friends, and the day he left for the academy. Nothing unusual, nothing connected to her people. Yet a faint image stirred in the back of his mind, blurry and distant. A red sky. Heat. A cry in the dark. Daniel shook his head hard, forcing the thought away. Just nerves, he told himself. But deep down, he knew something had been stirred. The envoy's words had opened a door he did not know existed. As he closed his eyes to rest, he could still hear her whisper. Not loud, not sharp, but soft and full of meaning. "You are that boy." And though he did not understand it yet, he felt that those words would change everything. The next morning began like any other. Orion Station bustled with voices, trade, and the endless hum of machinery. Daniel woke early, dressed in his uniform, and walked the long corridor toward the communication wing. On the surface, everything looked normal. But inside, his mind was anything but calm. He could not stop thinking about the envoy who had spoken those strange words to him. Her voice still echoed in his ears. Her silver eyes, the way they widened, the way her words trembled as she whispered, "You are that boy." It did not feel like a random mistake. It felt personal, heavy with memory. When Daniel entered the communication wing, he tried to focus on his duties. Reports flowed in. Messages from distant fleets required sorting. Envoy names needed checking again. But each time the system displayed names, his thoughts slipped back to her. He kept waiting, almost hoping, that she would appear again. Hours passed before it happened. She walked in quietly, moving with the same graceful calm she carried yesterday. Her pale skin shimmered faintly under the soft lights, and her silver eyes scanned the room. Daniel tried to keep working, but his heart raced. He could feel her presence even before she spoke. This time, she approached him directly. Her steps were measured, her voice soft yet steady. "Lieutenant Daniel Reeves," she said, pronouncing his name slowly, as if testing its weight. Daniel stood from his console politely. "Yes, envoy. How may I assist you today?" She hesitated, as though unsure if she should continue. Finally, she spoke in a low tone that only he could hear. "Your name brought a memory to me. A memory I thought I had forgotten." Daniel blinked, curious and cautious at the same time. "What memory?" The envoy's silver eyes fixed on him. "When I was a child, my world was falling apart. A storm of fire swept across our colony. Many of us were trapped, and we thought no one would come. But a ship arrived. A human ship. And among the rescuers was a boy, no older than 12. He was small, yet fearless. He carried survivors out of the burning ruins. I remember his eyes, his voice, his hands covered in ash. That boy saved my life. He saved many of us. His name was never told, but when I saw yours on the roster, I knew. You are that boy." Daniel froze. The words pressed against his mind like a sudden weight. He wanted to deny it, to explain that it must be a mistake, but a strange stirring inside held him back. His lips parted, but no words came. He could only stare back at her. Seeing his silence, the envoy softened her tone. I am called Myra among my people. If you are truly the one, then fate has brought us together again. Daniel finally spoke, his voice careful. Myra, I do not remember such a thing. I have no memory of that event. Her expression did not change. Memories can be hidden, but the soul does not forget. Your name, your face, even the way you stand, it all speaks the truth. You were there. Daniel felt his chest tighten. A faint image flickered in his mind again. A burning sky. A cry for help. The feeling of holding someone's hand, pulling them out of danger. It was blurred, incomplete, but it was there. His heart pounded. I do not know, Daniel admitted. I only remember my life on my colony world, my studies, the academy. Nothing like what you say. But these flashes in my mind, they confuse me. Myra tilted her head slightly, studying him. Sometimes the mind protects itself by locking away the past. But it cannot be erased fully. You are beginning to remember because we have met again. Daniel rubbed his temple, trying to think clearly. Part of him wanted to reject her words. Another part of him wanted to believe them. Could it be possible that he had been part of something greater as a child? Could it be that he had once saved lives and forgotten it? Their conversation ended abruptly when another officer entered the wing. Myra gave Daniel one last look and whispered, "Find the truth, Daniel Reeves." Then she walked away, her silver figure vanishing among the crowd. Daniel sat back at his console, shaken. His hands hovered above the keys, but his mind was far away. The memories, the whispers, the burning sky, it all haunted him. He needed answers. That night, he went to the archive chamber. Orion Station stored vast records of past missions, rescues, and battles. Daniel requested files connected to the Syrian system. The screen flickered as reports appeared, stretching back decades. He read through them carefully. Then he found it. A report of a rescue mission 20 years ago. A human vessel had responded to distress signals from a Syrian colony. Fires had destroyed much of the settlement. Survivors spoke of a young human boy who ran into danger again and again to pull them out. No name was recorded, only a description. The report ended with a note: the boy disappeared after the mission and was not identified. Daniel leaned back, stunned. The description was vague, but it matched what Myra had said. His heart raced. Was it truly him? Had his past been erased somehow? His thoughts tangled. If the record was real, then Myra was not mistaken. And if Myra was not mistaken, then part of his life had been hidden from him. But who would hide such a thing, and why? The more he thought, the more questions rose. Daniel left the archives late at night, walking slowly back to his quarters. The station was quieter now, its massive halls echoing only with faint footsteps. He felt small under the weight of the truth pressing in on him. As he lay down in his bed, he whispered to himself, "What happened to me? Why do I not remember?" His eyes closed, but his dreams were restless. Flashes of fire. The sound of children crying. His younger self running through smoke. Myra's silver eyes watching him. And always, that voice, faint but unshaken, whispering through the haze of memory. "You are that boy." Daniel woke in the middle of the night, breathing hard, sweat on his forehead. He stared into the darkness, and for the first time in his life, he realized his past might not be what he thought it was. And somewhere inside, a forgotten part of himself was beginning to awaken. Daniel woke early the next day, but his body felt heavy as if he had not rested at all. His dreams had been filled with smoke and shadows, broken cries, and flashes of fire. He pressed his hands against his face, trying to calm the storm inside his head. He knew he could not ignore it anymore. Myra's words had shaken something loose, and the pieces of memory would not stay silent. At the communication wing, Daniel tried to act normal. He checked envoy lists, verified arrival times, and answered small questions from officers, but his focus was split. His eyes went to the entrance again and again, half expecting Myra to appear. She did not. Instead, the silence left him with only his own racing thoughts. During a short break, Daniel left his console and returned to the archives. He knew there had to be more. The report he had read yesterday was too vague. He needed details. The archive chamber was quiet, lit by a pale blue glow. Rows of screens stretched across the walls, each filled with records that reached back centuries. He keyed in the request again: rescue missions, Syrian system, 20 years ago. The files appeared. Daniel scrolled slowly this time, reading every line. One detail struck him. In one testimony, a survivor had spoken of a boy with human eyes who shouted encouragement while pulling children to safety. Another testimony spoke of small hands gripping theirs tightly in the smoke. The boy had been brave, fearless, moving where even trained soldiers had hesitated. Daniel sat back, stunned. He could almost hear the voices of those survivors in his ears. He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he felt the heat again. He saw himself holding onto someone's hand, dragging them toward safety. He smelled smoke. He heard coughing. It felt real, not like a dream, but like a memory buried deep inside. When he opened his eyes, sweat covered his forehead. His breathing was quick. He whispered softly, "Was that me?" As he walked out of the archive chamber, his mind spun with questions. Why would those memories be locked away? Who had hidden them from him? And if Myra was right, if he truly had been that boy, then what did it mean for his life now? Later that evening, Daniel decided he could not keep this to himself. He went to his superior, Commander Hayes, the gray-haired woman who had welcomed him on his first day. She sat in her office, reading through reports. She looked up when he entered. "Lieutenant Reeves, you look troubled. Speak." Daniel hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Commander, I need to ask about a mission. A rescue operation in the Syrian system 20 years ago. I have reason to believe I was there." Her eyes narrowed slightly, her expression hardening. She set down her pad and leaned back in her chair. "What makes you think that?" Daniel explained everything. Myra's words, the archive reports, the memories that were returning in flashes. His voice was steady, but inside he feared she might laugh at him or dismiss his thoughts. Instead, Commander Hayes remained quiet for a long time. Finally, she sighed. "I hoped this day would not come so soon." Daniel froze. "You know something?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. But the truth is not simple. Years ago, there was a program. Not many know about it, even within our command. Children who showed unusual bravery and instinct were sometimes trained for dangerous missions. They were not told everything. They were guided, used carefully, then their memories were locked to protect them. You, Lieutenant, were one of those children." Daniel felt as if the floor had shifted beneath his feet. His voice cracked slightly. "You mean my memories were taken from me?" Hayes looked at him firmly. "Not taken, Daniel. Protected. What you saw, what you faced as a child, could have broken you. You were too young. The memory block was meant to give you a normal life until you were ready. But meeting someone from that time has started to tear down the walls." Daniel sank into the chair across from her, his heart pounding. So it was real. Myra was right. I was that boy. Hayes nodded once. "Yes. You carried children out of fire while others froze in fear. You showed courage beyond your years. Many lives were saved because of you. But you must understand, Daniel, this is not something you should speak of openly. The politics here are delicate. Some may see you as a hero. Others may see you as a tool. If you draw too much attention, you will be used. Her words were sharp and heavy. Daniel felt anger rising. Why was I never told? Why hide it from me? Because it was the only way you could grow into who you are now, Hayes replied firmly. You needed a chance at a life free of that weight. Now the past is finding you again. And you must choose how to face it. Daniel sat in silence, his thoughts a storm. A part of him felt betrayed. Another part felt a strange sense of pride. He had saved lives, even if he had not remembered it. He had been more than just a boy. He had been someone who mattered. That night, Daniel returned to his quarters. He sat at his desk, staring at his reflection on the screen. He thought about Myra, about her words, about the look in her eyes when she recognized him. She had carried that memory all her life, while he had lived unaware. To her, he was not just an officer. He was the boy who had given her hope when everything around her burned. Daniel clenched his fists. He knew now that his past was real, that the forgotten pieces were part of him. The question was what to do with that truth. Should he hide it, as his commander warned, or embrace it and seek more answers? Sleep came slowly, filled with half-formed dreams. Again he saw fire. Again he heard the cries. But this time, he also heard a voice, younger but his own, shouting, "Follow me. You will be safe." He woke with tears in his eyes, whispering to himself, "I was that boy. I was." The forgotten past was no longer silent. It was alive, demanding to be faced. The following days on Orion Station were not calm. Word had begun to spread among the envoys. Whispers followed Daniel wherever he walked. At first, he thought it was his imagination, but soon the truth became clear. The moment Myra had recognized him, the story had slipped from one group to another. Now, many envoys knew that the human officer with the steady eyes might be the same boy who had once saved lives on a burning world. Some looked at him with respect. Others looked at him with doubt. And a few looked at him with suspicion, as if his presence itself was a trick to gain advantage in negotiations. Daniel felt the pressure growing each time he entered the communication wing. He did his work carefully, but he could sense the stares. Even among his fellow officers, there was quiet talk. Not everyone knew the details, but enough had reached their ears for curiosity to rise. One afternoon, as he left the wing, a group of envoys blocked his path. They were from the Dralan Confederacy, tall beings with ridged foreheads and sharp eyes. The leader of the group stepped forward. "Lieutenant Reeves," he said with a low voice. "We hear strange stories about you. Some say you are a forgotten hero. Others say you pretend to be one. Which is true?" Daniel straightened his back, keeping his voice calm. "I have never claimed to be anything. What you have heard is not from me." The envoy narrowed his eyes. "Then why do others speak of it as truth? Why do they whisper your name with honor?" Daniel took a slow breath. "Because someone from that time believes she knows me. But I will not use it to gain favor. My duty here is service, nothing more." The envoy studied him for a long moment before finally stepping aside. "We will see if your words are as steady as your eyes, human." The group moved past, leaving Daniel with his heart beating hard in his chest. That night, he found Myra waiting for him near one of the observation decks. Through the wide glass, the stars shone like silver dust, endless and calm compared to the tension inside the station. "You feel the weight now," Myra said softly. Her silver eyes reflected the stars. "They question you. Some admire you. Some fear you. This is what truth does in a place built on fragile trust." Daniel stepped beside her, folding his arms. "You started this, Myra. I did not ask for it." She turned to him slowly. "I could not stay silent. When I saw your name, it was as if the past rose before me. You carried me through the fire. I remember your hand pulling me forward. I had to speak. But I did not know it would spread so quickly. Daniel stared at the stars. I only remember pieces. Small flashes. The rest is still hidden. But now everyone seems to know, and I do not know what to do. Myra placed a hand lightly against the glass. You must understand, to my people, memory is sacred. For us, the past lives within the present. That is why my words carried weight. If I say you are that boy, they believe it, because they know I would not lie about such a thing. Daniel sighed. And now the others think I am trying to use it as a weapon. Politics is sharp here, Myra. I do not want to be their tool. She turned to him again, her voice soft but firm. Then do not let them shape you. Be who you truly are. The boy I remember did not act for reward. He acted because he could not leave others behind. That spirit is still in you. Her words settled deep inside Daniel. He wanted to believe her. Yet he could not ignore the storm building around him. The storm struck the next day. A formal meeting was held between several envoy groups and the human delegation. Daniel stood at the side of the chamber, listening as talks grew tense over trade routes. Suddenly, one envoy from the Drallan Confederacy raised his voice. How can we trust humans, he said sharply, when they parade ghosts of the past as proof of their honor? This boy, this officer, is spoken of as a hero from decades ago. Convenient, is it not? To bring forth a forgotten tale when alliances are fragile. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Eyes turned toward Daniel. His chest tightened, but he forced himself to stay steady. One of the human diplomats rose. Lieutenant Reeves has not spoken of this himself. The recognition came from another envoy, not from him. Humanity does not twist the past for advantage. But the Drallan envoy pressed further. Then let him speak. Let him deny it here. Is he the boy of that burning colony, or is he not? All eyes fixed on Daniel. The chamber grew silent. He felt the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. Daniel took one slow step forward. His voice was calm but strong. I do not remember everything. I cannot stand here and claim to be what I do not fully know. But I will say this. If I was that boy, then it was not for politics or glory. It was because lives needed saving, and I could not walk away. That is all I have to say. The chamber stayed silent for a long moment. Some envoys nodded slightly, others frowned, but the tension eased enough for the talks to continue. Daniel returned to his place, his heart pounding. After the meeting, Myra found him again. Her eyes shone with quiet pride. You spoke with honesty. That is what matters. The truth will guide you, Daniel, even when others doubt. Daniel managed a small smile. Maybe. But I fear this is only the beginning. The more I remember, the more questions will rise. And the more others will try to use me. Myra looked out toward the stars once more. Then you must be ready. The past is waking inside you, and the galaxy is watching. But remember, Daniel, the boy who saved me long ago did not act for himself. He acted for hope. If you hold on to that, no politics can twist you. Daniel stood beside her, silent. The stars beyond the glass burned bright, steady, and endless. He wondered if the boy from long ago was truly still inside him, waiting to rise again. And though doubt pressed heavy on him, a spark of courage burned quietly in his chest. Days turned into nights on Orion Station, but Daniel could not escape the storm inside his mind. He carried out his duties, stood at his console, and listened to the endless chatter of envoys, yet his thoughts were always elsewhere. The weight of the whispers, the flashes of fire in his dreams, and Myra's calm certainty pressed against him like invisible chains. Each time he closed his eyes, the visions returned. He saw himself as a child, running through smoke with lungs burning, pulling others toward safety. He saw hands reaching out, begging for help. And he saw his own hands, smaller and weaker than now, yet filled with strength not his own. One evening, unable to endure the confusion, Daniel returned to Commander Hayes's office. The door slid open, and she looked up from her desk with a weary sigh. "I wondered how long it would take before you came back." Daniel stepped forward, his voice firm. "Commander, I need the truth. Not half of it. Not pieces. All of it. Who was I back then? What happened to my memories? Why was my life shaped this way?" Hayes closed her pad slowly and leaned back in her chair. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she rose, walked to the window, and looked out at the vast stars. "You want the truth, Daniel. But the truth carries weight heavier than steel. Are you ready for it?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "I cannot keep living in shadows. I need to know." She turned, her grey eyes hard yet filled with something close to respect. "Very well. You were part of Project Dawn." The words hung heavy in the air. Daniel frowned. "Project Dawn?" Hayes nodded. "It was a secret program, created in the early years of human expansion. Wars with unknown species, colony disasters, and pirate raids had taught us one lesson. We needed people who would not hesitate in crisis. People who could inspire others when everything else failed. Project Dawn sought out children who showed unnatural levels of courage, instinct, and empathy. They were trained quietly, prepared for rescue and survival missions too dangerous for regular soldiers. You were one of them." Daniel's heart pounded. "Children? Sent into danger?" Hayes's voice was steady. "Not as soldiers. As symbols. A child running into fire, refusing to give up, could do more to stir hearts than 1,000 weapons. It gave hope where none remained. You, Daniel, were among the brightest. At 12, you led survivors from the Syrian colony through burning ruins. You saved Myra. You saved dozens more. And then we locked those memories away to protect you." Daniel felt dizzy. He sat down slowly, his hands gripping the chair. "You erased my past." Hayes shook her head. "We buried it. For your sake. No child should carry such scars. The memory block allowed you to live as normal as possible, free from nightmares. But memory is not stone. When faced with triggers, it cracks." Myra's recognition opened the door. Daniel's voice was low but sharp. "Why not tell me when I grew older? Why hide it even then?" Hayes's gaze softened slightly. "Because politics is cruel. If others knew, they would have pulled you apart with demands. A hero child becomes a weapon in the eyes of leaders. I wanted you to have the chance to be more than just a tool." Daniel looked down at his hands. They trembled slightly. "So it is true. I was that boy." "Yes," Hayes said firmly. "You were." Silence filled the room, broken only by the faint hum of the station's systems. Daniel struggled to breathe evenly. A part of him felt pride, a warmth in his chest that he had saved lives. But another part burned with anger. His past had been shaped by others, his memories stolen without consent. At last, he whispered, "What happens now?" Hayes's eyes hardened again. "Now you must decide who you want to be. The truth is yours. You can reveal it to the envoys, gain their trust, and perhaps shift the balance of diplomacy. Or you can bury it once more and live as an ordinary officer. But if you choose the first path, you must know, Daniel, every word you speak will be weighed like gold and every step will be followed by eyes across the galaxy." Daniel left the office with his heart in turmoil. The corridor stretched before him, filled with officers and envoys moving in steady streams, yet he felt alone. The buried truth had been laid bare, and now it pressed on his shoulders like an unseen mountain. Later, he found Myra waiting for him again, as if she had sensed his need. She stood on the observation deck, silver eyes reflecting the stars. When he approached, she looked at him quietly. "You learned the truth, she said softly. Daniel nodded. Yes. I was that boy. I saved you, and others. But the memory was taken from me, hidden until now. I was part of something I never asked for. Myra's expression held both sorrow and pride. You carried a burden even as a child. Yet you carried it with courage. I told you before, Daniel. The soul does not forget. Even when memories are locked, the spirit remembers. That is why you stood so strong all these years. It is still within you. Daniel looked at her, searching her silver eyes. But what do I do now, Myra? If I speak the truth, some will honor me, but others will twist it for their own gain. If I stay silent, then I deny who I am. Myra placed her hand gently on the glass. Do not let fear decide. You are not only that boy. You are the man who stands here now. Do what he would do. Do what is right. Her words sank deep, filling the silence between them. Daniel stood there, gazing out at the endless stars. Somewhere inside, he felt the weight of two lives pressing together, the forgotten child who had once carried hope through fire, and the officer now forced to face the galaxy's gaze. For the first time, he accepted them both. He was that boy, and he was this man. And the path forward would demand strength from both. That night, as Daniel lay awake in his quarters, he no longer tried to deny the visions. He embraced them. He saw the fire. He heard the cries. He felt the hands reaching out. And instead of fear, he felt determination. The buried truth was no longer his enemy. It was his beginning. The next morning, Daniel met Myra at the docking bay. Outside, the endless expanse of space shimmered with distant stars. A small transport ship waited, sleek and equipped for long-range missions. Its hull was silver, reflecting the light of Orion Station. Myra gestured toward it. This ship will take us to the ruins of my colony world, she said. We need to recover old technology that could help my people. The mission is dangerous, but it is necessary. Daniel nodded. I am ready. Myra studied him carefully. You must understand, Daniel. Many envoys do not trust humans completely. They may respect your courage, but they are cautious. Your actions during this mission will prove more than words ever could. He swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. Then I will not fail. They boarded the ship, the engines humming as it left the station. Inside, the cabin was compact but efficient, filled with navigation consoles and storage compartments. Daniel found a seat near the front, gazing out at the stars as the station grew smaller behind them. For long hours, the ship traveled through empty space. Daniel and Myra spoke little. Both were focused on the task ahead. Myra occasionally checked the maps of the ruined colony, her silver eyes scanning coordinates and hazard zones. Daniel watched her, thinking of the child he had once been and the man he had become. When they finally approached the planet, Daniel's heart raced. The world below was scarred. Ash-colored plains stretched across the surface, broken buildings and craters marking where fire and chaos had swept through long ago. The colony had been devastated by disaster, and little had been rebuilt. Myra guided the ship carefully through the atmosphere. Stay close to me, she said. The terrain is unstable, and storms can appear without warning. The landing was rough. Dust swirled around them as the ship settled among the ruins. Daniel stepped onto the cracked ground, feeling the remnants of a world lost. He saw broken structures, toppled towers, and scattered debris. For a moment, he felt the weight of what had happened here so long ago. Myra led him toward a ruined building that had once been a center of energy production. The technology we need is here, she said. But the structure is fragile. Be careful. Daniel followed, moving with caution. Every step reminded him of the child he had once been, the small hands that had carried others to safety. He felt a strange connection to this place, as if his past were reaching out to guide him. Inside the building, the remnants of machinery stood like silent monuments. Sparks flew from damaged circuits, and the air smelled faintly of metal and ash. Myra pointed to a console partially buried under debris. That is what we need. It contains data on energy sources and survival systems. If we can restore it, my people will have a chance to rebuild more efficiently. Daniel knelt and began clearing the rubble carefully. The metal was sharp, and the building threatened to collapse with every movement. Myra worked alongside him, lifting beams and securing unstable sections. Together, they moved quickly and precisely. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. A crack spread along the floor. Daniel caught Myra's arm. "Hold on," he shouted. They dove toward a safer corner as another tremor shook the building. Sparks flew from the exposed wiring, and debris tumbled dangerously close. Daniel's heart raced. He felt the same fear he had felt as a child, yet now he had control, strength, and experience. He acted without hesitation, moving to secure a collapsing beam and guiding Myra out of harm's way. When the tremors subsided, they stood together near the console. Myra looked at him with silver eyes shining. "You have not changed," she said softly. "The boy who saved me still lives in you. He acts without thinking of reward, only the lives that matter." Daniel wiped sweat from his brow, feeling a mix of relief and pride. "I only do what must be done," he said. "It seems some things never leave us." They worked together through the night, restoring the damaged console and retrieving critical data. The task was exhausting, yet each success strengthened their bond. Daniel realized that Myra's trust was not just in his skill, but in his character. He felt a quiet determination grow inside him, a resolve to honor the boy he had once been. By morning, the mission was nearly complete. The console hummed with renewed power. The energy data was intact. Myra's people would have the resources to survive and rebuild. Daniel felt a sense of accomplishment he had never known before. This was more than a mission. It was proof that humanity could act with courage, compassion, and purpose. Myra placed a hand on the console. "We did it," she said. "Your courage has saved not only me but countless others. They will remember, and so will I." Daniel nodded. "I only did what I would have done as a child. But now I see that actions can echo far beyond the moment. The choices we make matter." Myra turned to him, her voice calm yet filled with emotion. "You have proven yourself to me, Daniel. Not just the boy I remember, but the man you have become. Trust is earned in deeds, not words, and you have earned mine completely." Daniel felt a surge of pride. Myra's recognition was more than validation. It was a reminder that humanity's strength was not in technology alone, but in courage, compassion, and the willingness to face danger for the sake of others. They prepared to leave the planet. As the ship rose from the ruins, Daniel looked down at the ash-covered landscape. He felt a quiet connection to the past and the present. The child who had once run through fire was still part of him, guiding him in ways he had only begun to understand. Myra's voice broke his thoughts. "The galaxy watches, Daniel. Your actions here are a reminder that humans can rise above fear and doubt. You have shown that strength is not measured by power alone, but by courage and heart." Daniel nodded. "Then we return, and they will see what humanity can do. Not as conquerors, but as protectors, as helpers, as those who will act when others cannot." The stars stretched out before them, endless and bright. Daniel felt a quiet determination settle inside him. The mission had tested him, and he had not failed. Myra's trust, the lives they had saved, and the past he had reclaimed were now part of who he was. And as the ship sailed back toward Orion Station, Daniel knew that the true test was only beginning. The galaxy would judge him, envoys would question him, but he was ready to stand not as a boy, not as a legend of the past, but as a man who embodied the very best of humanity. The journey back to Orion Station was calm, though Daniel's mind was full of thoughts. He and Myra had completed the mission successfully. The console from her ruined colony held vital information, enough to help her people rebuild and survive. For the first time, Daniel felt a deep sense of purpose. The boy he had once been and the man he had become were now connected. As the station grew closer on the view screen, Daniel could see that word of their success had already spread. Ships moved in orderly patterns, envoys hurried toward docking bays, and a quiet tension filled the air. Everyone seemed to know that something important had been accomplished. When they landed, a small group of envoys and human officers was waiting. Some greeted them with admiration, others with quiet skepticism. Daniel stepped off the ship with Myra beside him. His posture was calm, his expression steady. One of the envoys, the same leader from the Drallan Confederacy who had confronted him weeks ago, stepped forward. His ridged forehead creased as he studied Daniel. "Lieutenant Reeves," he said, his tone cautious but respectful, "it seems your actions have spoken louder than our doubts." Daniel nodded slightly. "We acted to protect lives and recover resources for those who need them. That is all that matters." The Drallan envoy studied him, then inclined his head. "Then we respect your courage." Myra smiled faintly. "I told you, Daniel. Actions prove more than words. You have done well." Daniel's heart lifted slightly. He realized that recognition did not come from titles or stories alone. It came from what one did when it mattered most. His past, once hidden and mysterious, had guided him here. Inside Orion Station, a formal assembly was called. Envoys from multiple systems gathered. Human diplomats took their places and Daniel and Myra stood at the front. The assembly hall was vast, lit by soft white lights. Screens displayed the images of the ruined colony, the recovered technology, and the work they had accomplished. A senior envoy spoke first, addressing the crowd. "Lieutenant Daniel Reeves and Envoy Myra have returned from a mission that was thought impossible. They retrieved vital technology that will allow a colony to survive and thrive again. Their actions remind us that courage and cooperation can overcome any obstacle." Applause filled the hall, though some remained skeptical, eyes narrowed. Daniel looked at Myra, who nodded subtly. He stepped forward, his voice clear and steady. "I am Daniel Reeves," he began. "Some know me as a human officer. Others may know me as the boy who saved lives on the Syrian colony many years ago. I do not claim to be a hero. I only did what anyone should do when others are in danger. Courage is not unique to one person. It lives in anyone willing to act when it is needed." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Myra's eyes reflected quiet pride. Daniel continued. "The mission was dangerous, and we faced many obstacles. But we acted together, human and envoy alike. The success of this mission is proof that when beings work together, even the most difficult challenges can be overcome." The assembly remained silent for a moment, then applause began again, louder this time. Some envoys came forward, shaking Daniel's hand or nodding in respect. Others simply observed, their expressions unreadable. Daniel knew not all hearts were won, but he had shown what mattered most. Later, in a quieter part of the station, Myra spoke to him. "You have done more than prove yourself to others, Daniel. You have proven yourself to yourself. The past, the memories, even the fears, they are no longer chains. They are your strength." Daniel looked at her, feeling a deep sense of clarity. "I understand now. The boy I was saved lives. The man I am continues to act when it is needed. I cannot change the past, but I can honor it through what I do now." Myra's silver eyes softened. "And through this, others will see that humanity is more than words. It is courage, compassion, and action. You are living proof of that." Daniel nodded, feeling the truth in her words. The recognition was not just personal. It was a representation of what humanity could bring to the galaxy. He realized that the boy who had once run through fire had not disappeared. He had grown, learned, and now inspired others through his actions. In the days that followed, Daniel and Myra worked together to deliver the recovered technology to the Syrian people. Colonists welcomed them with gratitude. Children played safely near the rebuilt structures. Adults spoke with respect and hope. Daniel saw the impact of their mission firsthand. The past and present merged, and for the first time, he felt whole. At night, on the observation deck of Orion Station, Daniel and Myra looked out at the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly, filled with possibilities, challenges, and stories yet to be written. "Do you ever think about the boy you were?" Myra asked quietly. Daniel smiled faintly. "Every day. He reminds me why I act now. Courage is not about fame or reward. It is about doing what must be done, even when it is difficult. I hope I continue to honor him." Myra nodded. "You already have. And the galaxy has seen it." Daniel felt a sense of peace he had never known. The whispers of the past no longer haunted him. They guided him. The boy who saved lives, the human officer now recognized across the galaxy, and the man learning to face the future were all one. As he turned to Myra, he said, "This is just the beginning. There will be other missions, other dangers. But I am ready." She smiled, her voice calm and certain. "And I will stand beside you, Daniel. Together, we can face whatever comes next." The stars beyond the station shone bright, endless, and steady. Daniel felt hope, courage, and determination fill him completely. The galaxy had witnessed his actions, humanity had proven itself, and the boy he had once been had left a mark that would never fade. And as Orion Station hummed quietly around them, Daniel realized that he had finally found where he belonged between the past he had reclaimed and the future he was ready to shape. The journey of the boy who saved a world had ended. The journey of the man who would continue to act with courage had only begun.